There are 15 very important elements we must take into consideration while making an effective presentation. We must keep in mind that an effective presentation is probably the most important aspect of your speech. Visual aids are a very important aspect of your overall presentation, but if the presentation is not successful, it could result in a very ineffective presentation. The first element to keep in mind is the amount of text we use per slide. For this, we must keep the next phrase present. Less is more. If you put a lot of text in a presentation, no one will remember it. But if you use keywords, they will become more memorable and therefore more effective for your presentation. Next, let's also remember that visual aids are exactly that, a visual help. Therefore, let's always remember that an image is more memorable than a word. Therefore, the more images your presentation has, the more interesting, captivating, and efficient it will be to your public. It's important to keep visual contact of your audience. This way, they will feel as though they are important to you. They are making it easier to create a memorable bond. Not only is it important to give a good imagery, but you yourself must look also memorable. If you look dull or casual, there will be nothing significant about you. Your voice volume is also important. If there is no strength in your voice, or if no one can hear your voice, then no one will be paying attention to what you're trying to transmit.
Making the presentation dynamic is also very important. If you don't make the audience feel like they can participate more likely, it will seem like you are talking to yourself. Keep the audience on their toes and expect the unexpected. This goes by the hang of interacting with your audience, make them feel like they are part of your presentation. Punctuality is very important. After your finish time, your audience might get uncomfortable in you continue because they may also have things to do. So by extending this time, you may be losing any bond that could have been created. Telling anecdotes is important. It makes your presentation real and human, and something people can relate to, and therefore creating an ever stronger bond with your audience. Things goes by the hand of giving real examples. It makes your presentation more credible.
Being knowledgeable about the subject is important. It portrays confidence and it making it easier to convince your audience. Being clear on the presentation object is important because you are telling your audience exactly what you want from them and what you want them to learn. This way, there are no loose ends. Not being monotonous is important because if you maintain one simple tone of voice, your audience will most likely get bored. Implementing these elements is extremely essential for an effective presentation. The better your presentation, the more followers you will have. These are the elements that must be taken into consideration while making an effective presentation. We also must keep in mind that something very important while making presentations are the planning process, in which you establish who your last person is and what message you want them to receive. Then there's the type of presentation where you need to determine what type of presentations you will be, persuasive, informative. Then there are the communication skills that need to be implemented, tone of voice, pace, rhythm, and finally defining your audience, determining what audience your presentation is direct to.
To plan a presentation, you must first begin by deciding a topic on which you will talk about. It is important to know much about the subject. If not, you will have to prepare for your presentation. It is very important to create visual aids. This way, it will be easier to remember things you are supposed to say or explain. Once you know what you are going to talk about, it is important you understand what kind of presentation you are going to give. This way, you can manipulate your content to satisfy the needs of the audience. It is important to know what you want to give the spectators at the end of the presentation. The entire purpose of your appearance must be carried on throughout the whole explanation. Depending on your audience while the presentation is ongoing, you will notice that there will be some communication skills that you will have to enforce in order to maintain the attention of everyone around. It is important not to stand still. This way you can ensure that everyone's focus will always be on you. Overall, all these components must come together if your presentation is going to be good. In a way, you could say that it all comes down to planning effectively. You have to consider every minimal aspect of the surroundings and the mood you want to establish with the audience. This way, you will be prepared for everything that can happen.